Aloha! Welcome to another video for IT 426 at Brigham Young University, Hawaii. In this video, we're going to discuss different application architectures or ways of designing and distributing application services on a network. Okay. The role that your server is going to play in providing services to clients depends on the type of applications that are being used by the employees of the organization. So your textbook illustrates three separate client application architectures, we could say, uh, or ways of delivering the application to the user. So let's take a look at each of these three in turn. They are the client-based application, two, the client-server application, and three, a distributed application. So let's look at the whiteboard and see if we can walk through each of these. Okay, so here we have client-run applications at the top. And over here, we have a file server, we have a print server, and then we have our client and a printer. Now this print server and this file server could be running Windows Server 2008 or some other server-based operating system. And the idea here is on a client-run application, all of the processing of the instructions, all of the programming, everything's being done here. Okay, a perfect example of this is Microsoft Office. Okay, it just exists on the computer you're working it on. You unplug it from the network, the application continues to function perfectly. Okay, but there's a role here for servers, even for client-run software, because in an enterprise environment, you're frequently using shared file services. Okay, or you may be printing to a shared printer. And the way we often handle this in an enterprise environment is by setting up a file server. Okay, with the file server is in charge of hosting and managing access to the shared files. Okay? Similarly with the print server is in charge of providing access to this shared printer. Okay? So this is where the servers come in. Even though the application itself, the main application, in this case the Office productivity software, is being run on the client. Okay. The next one we're looking at is client-server architecture. The idea here is that the application is running on the server. An example of this is a database server. Okay. You don't want to have a database hooking into a single database on each client machine in your network. It's inefficient and there's problems updating it. So what we do is we put the database server on its own machine, on its own dedicated server. Okay? And then we can provide access to multiple clients to that application. So this is a client-server architecture. Lastly, we have distributed applications. Okay? This is where we have an application server that acts in the middle of an interaction between the client and the database server. Okay? E-commerce websites are examples of this, where we have a web server that's running a web-based application and then is querying information from a database server and then delivering that information to the client. The client interacts with the application, which is on the server, which updates the database and then responds back to the client. Okay, so these are the three architectures. We have client-run applications, like Office productivity software that just runs on the client, but accesses resources on the network through the servers. We have client-server architectures, like database systems, which are hosted on an application server and accessed by the client. And then we have distributed architectures with an application server acting in the middle of an interaction between the client and the database server. So those are your three architectures. Make sure you have those down. And by exploring these, as we look at different roles of our server, then or multiple servers we have in our enterprise environment, we can start placing them here and seeing what types of services need to be offered. That's it for this tutorial. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing your feedback in class. Mahalo.